So hey everyone, my name is Adam Turnbull. I'm currently a principal animator at NetEase Games. And this talk is going to be mainly about animation feedback, so talking about the reels that were sent in and just giving some notes and drawovers and things like that on those. So yeah, thank you to everyone that sent those in. A little bit about me. I'm currently working remotely in the UK for NetEase Games, like I said. And this is where I'm from originally, so just up in the northeast of England. I've been in the games industry now for about 12 years. So previous to NetEase, I was working for companies like Moon Studios, Riot Games, Sony Guerrilla Games, Jagex, and Mediatonic. And those are some of the projects that I've worked on over the years. And yeah, a big part of my career was working on League of Legends at Riot Games. So these are just some of the characters that I've worked on, as well as some other characters and some skins and whatnot. But yeah, just lots of really fun stuff for animation, lots of different characters and variation. It was super fun. And I also do quite a bit of personal work whenever I get some free time. So I do things like post workflow videos online and post them on my YouTube channel. I've been doing that for a while now. I'll often give feedback to people if they ask me for advice or help or just want some notes on their reel or whatever. And I also work on some small game dev projects. I love doing that kind of stuff whenever I get time. So just working on small personal projects in Unreal and Unity. So yeah, feedback time. Let's just get straight into it. I think this one is from Vladimir Paki. So yeah, let's give it a watch. Yeah, it's got a lot of nice gameplay animations here. It's obviously quite a gameplay heavy reel. It's always good to make that obvious kind of thing. It's good to focus your reel, I would say, to wherever you're applying, you know. So if where you're applying is very gameplay heavy, then obviously something like this is awesome because they can instantly see how this would fit into theirs. That's great, yeah. And you've even got some first person stuff too. It's got a nice variety, but it's still very heavily a gameplay reel, which is good. Cool, very nice. Yeah, it's a nice length as well. I just want to say, yeah, a couple of good things about it first, because I think it's always good to start, in general, as a tip, it's good when you're giving feedback to start with something positive. I think positive feedback is also just as useful as negative feedback, because it then enforces or encourages that person to do more of that. And it also sets kind of like a more positive tone, you know, to the conversation. You're not just straight in there with negative stuff or critiques. It's, you know, the person, I'd say, is much more likely to listen to you if you start with something positive. So yeah, that's just a quick tip on if you're giving feedback to someone. But also, yeah, there is a lot of cool stuff in here. Like I said, it's great that you focused it, and it's much more of it's very much a gameplay reel. You've got a lot of the things that people want to see in there, you know, like walk cycles, you know, sword hits, and lots of different variation of locomotion. You've even got some first person stuff. You're using characters from other games and things like that. So yeah, I think, did I mention the length? I'd say the length is it's a good duration for a reel. I would say you could even maybe shorten it to a minute. You've got a lot of elements in there that are kind of repetitive. You know, you've got a couple of sword attacks that look quite similar. You've got a lot of walk cycles, maybe 2 or 3 of you. Some of these shots I noticed happen quite a few times. You know, there's a lot of time here where they're reloading. You know, which is fine because that's how it would be in game, I guess, but for a reel you don't really need to show the same animation, you know, 4 or 5 times. You could easily cut this down. You know, that probably goes on for about 3 seconds longer than it needs to. And yeah, overall I'd say just the quality of work is really good. But yeah, let's get into it. I don't have too much to say about this first shot. I'd say it's pretty solid. It's always good to have a solid first shot. You know, it kind of sets the tone. And I'd say the first shot for our first 2 shots of a reel are really important because it sets the tone of the overall reel. You know, if you're applying to a gameplay studio and you have like a 15-second dialogue shot as your first shot in your reel, some people might just kind of move on because they think, well, that's obviously what you're passionate about. We don't need someone who's into dialogue here. You know, if they're a very gameplay mechanics heavy studio and they don't really do any dialogue. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You know, the first 2 shots are probably going to set the tone and quality bar of your reel. And yeah, I'd say the only thing about this one I would say is you could maybe pump the shoulders a little bit more, you know, like really pump them in. And this elbow, I don't know, there's something distracting about it, how it doesn't stay there for long enough. You can maybe keep the elbow here for a couple of frames extra, so it's like, and then comes back in a more nice, in a nicer spacing. But yeah, overall I'd say great. Let's move on. This one, the only thing I've noticed at first is this part above here is very static. I know what you're kind of going for with the, you know, it's that kind of military thing where they keep the gun very static and they're moving in like this. But there's something about it that's, because the hips as well are very like fluid, there's something off balance about it. It looks like all the motion is down here and up here it's very just like static. So maybe there's a bit more you can do there where you balance it out. Maybe as they come down, the chest maybe drops a little, or there's a little bit of rotation or something just to make it feel more alive. Like, it doesn't have to be much. Maybe the shoulders, because the shoulders don't move too much. Maybe as the foot comes down, there's like a little jolt, you know, like that with the gun. With the shoulders, sorry. So they droop a little bit and then pop back up. But not too much, but just enough to make this part feel more alive. Yeah. This one I wasn't really sure what was going on too much, because you see how I'm not sure if they're getting pushed here. It looks like a push, but then I think the main thing is the reactions, you know. If you're getting pushed by something and you feel like you're in kind of imminent danger, you're not just going to kind of casually turn like that. Like, he just kind of goes, you know. And then even the look around, it's just like a little look, you know. Like, whereas really, if you got shot in the back or kicked in the back, you'd really like, you know, really quickly come around and then have like a, you know, a quick look around to see who it was or what's going on. You know, if your life's in danger, you're not just going to casually, like, you know, kind of turn around like this. So I'd say the reaction thing, the spacing on that, you could really like exaggerate that, like double the speed and really lean, you know, with the head, so they're really looking around, and then the gun flips around. And then the other thing that was quite noticeable was the hand. I'd say here, it looks like they're meant to be getting shot here, right? or at least that's how I take it. I'd really like push, you do a little bit, but I really just push the shoulder back, you know, so you really get that force. And then the hand's already coming off the gun there, but I would delay the hand a bit. See, the shoulder's back and the hand's kind of like, you know, the shoulder hit should pull everything else around, you know, it should go like this. Whereas right now it looks like he's kind of getting hit in the hand because the hand comes so far back. You could even add some like placeholder VFX. I do this a lot, you know, just to give a bit more context to the scene. So you could have like a little like spark or something. I'm gonna delete this. There you go. You know, like a little spark or something coming off here with the gunshot, like a line. You know, so just on the frame just before the shoulder comes back like that, and then you get that pop of the shoulder. It'll just give it a lot more impact. I also noticed the arm at the start too, right? The arm I think comes up way too high. If you're gonna get pushed, I'd really push this kind of C shape. Oh, what am I doing? There you go. Yeah, so if you're getting pushed in the back, right, you want to feel that force. So you really want this kind of C shape, and then as you do, you get this reverse C here. So you get like a really big impactful thing, really big impactful pose. Whereas here, it's more in the arm again. You probably just want this, you know, like C shape, and the arm kind of like flops, you know. I noticed that this pose here, so that's your A pose. Then you have your B pose. And then you go pretty much back to the same pose, the exact same pose. So I'm assuming it was just, you know, you copied and pasted it, which is efficient, but I would say instead of having going back to the A pose, like have a C pose, right? So it's slightly different. It can be similar. You can still copy and paste it, but then just slightly shift it. Maybe have the arms a bit further up. So the arms are down like that now. Maybe, you know, they could come down and have the, you know, like they're ready to go kind of thing. So you go from arms down here into your B pose, and then they come down pretty much similar, but the gun's pointing upwards. So it's just a slight variation, so it's not just the exact same pose. And I'd say again, similar to last time, the reaction, you could probably, you know, they're obviously in some kind of like firefight or some kind of war zone or whatever, but the look over, it's very casual, you know. They kind of go like this and then come down, whereas you really, you know, they should be hidden as if they're, you know, their life depends on it, and then just quickly have a quick look and then come straight back down. So I think the spacing there, you know, instead of going like linear slow spacing, you know, they could really like maybe pop up and then hang a sec and then really pop back down again, you know. So instead of like a linear, like a slow linear look and then back, it's like a quick, like you can even overshoot, right? So goes like that. Get rid of them. So it's a really quick, and then there's a little overshoot, you know. So they kind of pop up, but they go further than they should, and then, you know, just slightly up and then down. But yeah, overall, it's a nice little sequence. I like the roll. This is really cool. The only thing I would say is maybe the hips. They don't really move outside of that box sideways, you know, on the let's say x-axis, if that's what it is, depending on the program. You see how it's just very like, you kind of want to have a little bit of weight shift with the hips, so maybe it can come a little bit further over here to land on this foot. But yeah, overall I think it's cool. I really like the personality moment where he kind of lifts his helmet back up. I think stuff like that's really nice. So it's not just a generic walk cycle. You know, you've obviously added some personality there. It just makes it a bit more unique. That's really nice. Really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I think the only thing there's a little hitch on the sword. I think it's the arc on the sword. You know, yeah, there. Did you see the point here? And then it's up here, and then there. So it's more like this kind of thing. Whereas really, I would think it would be cooler to have this big arc around, you know, like that, and then it comes around, and then does another one, you know, instead of kind of like a little hitch there. It's pretty nice walk cycle. I'd say the thing I'll say here is, you know, Kratos is quite well known as a character, and he's quite known to be, I guess, like angry. So I'd say really lean into that with a walk cycle. Don't just do a generic walk cycle. Even though it's well done, it doesn't really portray who Kratos is, and I think you could really push that walk cycle to, you know, make him look angry, you know, like he's actually got intent and he's actually heading towards something. Because right now, you know, it feels like a kind of waste to use Kratos but not actually push his really well-known persona. So yeah, just remember that kind of stuff, like adding intent to walk cycles based on who they are, especially if they're well-known. And even if they're not, you could make up their own persona, you know. If it's just a generic rig, you can still give it personality and make the walk cycle reflect that. Yeah, these are all pretty nice. I'd say they're just, you could probably add more impact to them. You know, let's see, yeah, like there with the pump. Kind of goes like this. It's quite slow. You really want to like pump that, you know, like really get it into the, like bring it into himself. Even just with reloads, you know, like instead of just them putting the ammo into the gun, just really push it in, you know, really add impact to it with the spacing. Yeah, and when they pull that back, just really pull it back, like pull it back double the amount you've done it. I think with weapon stuff like this, that's all. You just want it to feel really good for the player to do. So I think exaggerating that stuff is always better than it feeling too soft. You want it to feel kind of aggressive. Yeah, and then even these kind of shots, I would say they're quite soft. It's just kind of like done, boom. Whereas really you want to just feel that shotgun blast, especially with things like shotguns. I think with machine guns it's okay, just have a little, you know, da 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 da. Whereas with shotgun blast, you really want to feel that. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was being nitpicky in a lot of it. I'd say as a reel it is very solid as a reel, and like I said, it's really nice that it has focus. It's very much a gameplay reel, which is awesome. Yeah, hopefully some of that helped. So yeah, I think I'm running out of time, so I should move on to the next one. This is Mle Singal. Oh, it looks like it should have sound. One sec. Okay. We got sound.
A crown for York, and all the lords bow low to him.
Let's go for brunch.
Cool. Yeah, it's a nice length. Again, it's a lot shorter than the first one. It's 30 seconds, but I'd say that's way more. That's more than enough. Especially if you're just gonna show your best work. You know, you don't want to pad it out with 2 minutes of kind of work you're not proud of. I'd say as long as it's work you're proud of, then 30 seconds is way more than enough. I'll turn the sound off a sec. I really like this chicken walk. It's quite unique. Normally with reels you'll get normal walk cycles, and you do have one of those, but it's nice that you've done like a different kind of walk cycle, something that a lot of people might not think to do. That's really cool. And yeah, you do have a lot of variety in this, like dialogue, action, walk cycles. I'd say if you're going to send it to a company, you might want to try to focus it a bit more. Like I said in the last one, you don't want it to be too varied. That, like I said, like you've got a dialogue scene to start. If you're sending this to a company that don't do a lot of dialogue scenes, and it's like a gameplay company, they do a lot of gameplay mechanics and things, and they don't have a lot of facial animation. Obviously, starting with a shot, you might want to start with a different shot. But yeah, anyway, let's get into it. I think I need sound for this one. I'll turn it down a bit. Right. There to there. So, I just want to say I'm not an expert at dialogue. I don't do a lot of dialogue shots. I have watched a lot of people work on dialogue shots, and I've tried to learn things from things like YouTube and whatnot. I've done some in the past, but yeah, I just wanted to say I'm not an expert. I would say if you want kind of in-depth dialogue feedback, I would go, there's some good YouTube channels, like Jean Denis has some great feedback videos on dialogue. He has feedback on every kind of animation, but he has a lot of dialogue shots, and it's all really cool, really useful. Another guy I used to work with, Chester Sampson, he also has a YouTube channel. He has some great videos on things like eyes and things. And then I'd say like Sir Wade, you probably know about. He has a big YouTube channel on animation. He has loads of great insights from his time at DreamWorks, I think. Just about dialogue and things like that. So definitely check those out if you want some more in-depth stuff. But yeah, I'll go through it and just see what I can pick out.
A crown for York, and all the lords bow low to him.
I'd say that the first thing I noticed was that she's not really looking anywhere in particular. Let me see. She kind of looks over here quite a lot for some reason. That might be in the reference, I don't know, and you've just kind of taken it from there, but it doesn't feel like there's a reason she should be looking to her right sometimes. Then she looks forwards. And then at the end again, she kind of looks over here again. So, it's just a strange acting choice, I would say. There doesn't seem to be a reason for her to do that. I would also say you don't need to completely kind of, I guess, copy the reference, or I would say just take the references as inspiration for posing and things, but I would try to adapt it to your own kind of scene and your own context, because a lot of the movement is very she kind of just flows through the motions. I'd say since it's your first shot on your reel and it's a dialogue piece, you might want to try to add a bit more interest to it and add some kind of key moments. So maybe when she says crown,
A crown.
That's very pronounced. It's very like, I feel like she should come up a bit more. Really kind of unfold on that. What else is there?
For York and all the lords.
All, I'd say, is another pronounced
And
one.
all the lords.
Where she could do like a little something else. Little small pause change. And low is pretty good. I would say that's fine because she kind of comes down as she's saying a low. You know, it's quite good.
A crown.
I'd say crown could be bigger. It could be a bigger beat. You know, really catches your attention, and you know, and she can be kind of looking instead of looking off to the right. Sometimes I feel like she should be looking down on someone. You know, feels like she's quite powerful and elegant. So yeah, just think about those things. Trying to add a bit more an interesting rhythm kind of thing, a bit more some key poses, and instead of just kind of going with what the reference does, it's all about adapting it to your own situation and own context and trying to make it as appealing as possible. I would also say it lingers a little bit too long. I noticed this on a couple of the shots that they kind of linger at the end for maybe like, I don't know if you're just trying to pad out the reel a bit more, or because from here she doesn't really do anything after the dialogue. She just kind of blends back to position, and then she looks off here again, you know. I would say you don't really need to linger on it too long. I'd say just end it kind of like maybe, I don't know, a few frames after the dialogue ends, if there's nothing else interesting happening. But yeah, let's move on.
Let's go for
Right,
go for brunch. Let's go for brunch. Let's go for brunch.
I would say that one of the things here, he kind of tries to hit every vocal beat with a hand gesture, you know. He's like, let's go for brunch kind of thing. I don't feel like you need to hit every vocal beat.
Let's go
So he's like, let's go for lunch. When really, I think with stuff like this, you should just act it out, as if, you know, how would you ask someone to do that if you're stood up and you're about to go for brunch?
Let's go.
You probably just say like, oh, let's go for brunch kind of thing, you know, and it's just one motion, like maybe one hand movement. I don't think you need to add a hand motion for every single vocal beat. That's kind of a common thing, I guess, with dialogue scenes where people try to make sure that something's moving on every single like vocal beat. It can come across as quite messy. So yeah, it's all about learning kind of when to do that kind of emotion like that. And also, he kind of, I'll turn the sound off. Here, it's like a full-on kind of 90-degree turn, which is a little unnatural. I would expect him to kind of say like, let's go for brunch, and then he starts walking even though he's still kind of facing that way, and then kind of goes into the walk. You know, it kind of feels very much like let's go for brunch, and then he turns and then continues to walk kind of thing. I think So Weird has a really good video on this about kind of what you lead with is really important. So if you lead, I can't remember what video it is, but he talks about if you're talking to someone like this guy is, and then you kind of lead with your chest but your head's still facing that way and you're talking still, it makes you feel, it's a different feeling to if you say something but then just instantly turn your head away and walk away. So you could play with that here, so you know, to get a different feeling. So maybe he's like, let's go for brunch, and he starts to walk but he's still looking at the person and then goes. It'll make him look a lot more like he's interested in talking to the person, and he's not really in a rush. Whereas if he just like was like, let's go for lunch, and then he kind of led with his head and looked away and continued, it would kind of give a different feel. It would feel like he's in a rush to go for lunch, and he doesn't really care as much about the person's reaction or whatever. You know, it's just a different feeling, and so I'd play around with that kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, maybe just keep it as a dialogue scene instead of trying to fit in that walk afterwards. Let's look at this one. This is really nice. I really like the kind of hang time you have going on here. It's kind of like, and it's very varied as well. I really like that you have this like little hop, then a big jump, and then kind of a medium. You have this little hang time in the middle. That's really cool. Like, you know, because some people might just do like 3 jumps like this. You know, very similar kind of timing and very similar arcs and height, which you've obviously you know, made it more interesting by varying the height and the timing and everything. Let's have a look. So this arm motion is a little distracting. Goes from there to back in about 3 frames. It feels quite distracting, like too fast kind of thing. So maybe think about slowing that down a bit, and then leading. You could kind of have them drag a little, so when he comes down, they're still up a little here, and then he swings them through, you know, to really give himself that oomph. You know? Yeah, it's a nice landing. I like this whole, like, this pose is nice, you know. There's a bit too many foot movements. He doesn't really need to like shift his foot here. So he kind of shifts his foot, his right foot, and then he shifts his left foot. It's not really necessary, I would say. And even the stand up at the end, again, it's like it kind of lingers. You don't really need that. I would say if you're going to add something at the end, try to have it so that it adds to the shot. So maybe it adds a bit of personality. Like he lands and then he just gives this big like sigh, like kind of like relief, like he's made the jumps. Or, you know, he could be holding on and then look behind him, like, or look down, you know, and then like pull himself tighter kind of thing, or something like that, just to show, you know, some kind of personality. Just standing up in that kind of, I guess, generic way, it doesn't really add anything to the shot. It just extends the shot kind of thing. So yeah, if you're gonna add an ending, I would say just use it to add to the personality of the shot kind of thing. But yeah, overall. And then, yeah, like I said, I like this. It's quite unique. I would say you could probably push the head out even more. You know, when she does that little like chicken thing. Watch how a chicken does it, and they really push the head out. You know, really pronounce the head as she goes like that. Another thing I noticed is the hair, the physics, I guess, on the hair that you've keyed. I'm assuming you've keyed it. It doesn't seem quite right. Like it kind of pops out. Sorry, this part of the hair. That's what I'm talking about. Because she's kind of going. She's going up there, right? and this is kind of coming around in a curve. It's coming back towards her when really it should be dragging. You know, the hair should probably like drag a bit and then come up. You know, if her head comes up, the hair would probably drag and then come up. Whereas right now it's kind of already curled in as she's still going up. If you know what I mean. The only other thing I would say is there's a little knee pop, I think. Yeah, there, look. She kind of, it locks, you know, for a couple of frames. It kind of locks into this position. Then it pops out. I would just try to ease that a little, I guess. Let me delete that. Yeah, it's not a very good drawing, but basically just try to ease the knee a bit. Some rigs have controls, you know, on the actual knee, like noodle controls, so you can just ease that yourself, like go through one by one and just make sure the knee doesn't just pop out. It go from straight to like bent and then comes back straight again, because it can just catch the eye and make it just feel a bit unnatural. But yeah, overall it's nice walk cycle. Awesome. Yeah, I think overall a really good reel. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one. So yeah, this is Alexander Tikomarov. Let's take a look. Okay, so I think this is quite long, so I might just have to scrub through it. I think it is the same walk cycle, mostly the same walk cycle all the way through. It looks like they've just got a lot of different elements coming in. So let's take a look first. I just want to say I'm not a pixel animator. If you want tips on those, I would definitely recommend people like there's a lot of YouTube channels like I think Adam Eunice has a really good one. Soultunes is another good one. Pixel Pete. I've watched a lot of those videos. They're really good. So if you want actual pixel art feedback or anything like that, I would definitely check out those guys. So yeah, I think overall the actual walk cycle is really good. I love the all the overlap on the hair and things like that. Really nice. I also think, is it on here as well? Yeah, props for adding more depth, I guess, to things like the tail. A lot of people might have just kept this as 2D, right? But you see how the tail kind of comes to the foreground a little here and then goes behind. That's really nice. Like, not a lot of people might do that, so it's cool that it's always nice in pixel art when you add a bit more depth to it like that. Yeah, I would say, even though I'm not a pixel artist, pixel animator, you know, animation is animation. So yeah, the same principles and fundamentals and things always apply, whether it's you know, pixel art, 3D, 2D, whatever. It's, you know, the same kind of principles are going to apply. So yeah, I'll just take a look. I would say one thing I'm noticing is this hand, it only goes on one axis, you know, it only moves on one axis, back and forth, like that kind of thing. I think even though that is mainly what it's doing, I think even just adding one pixel of up and down movement would make it more interesting and make it feel a bit more organic, a bit more natural. I do that quite a lot in 3D, where even if, the main part of something is moving forwards or upwards or whatever, if it's like a breathing animation or something, I always add a small amount of movement or rotation to the the other axes, just to make it feel, because in life, you don't, unless you're a robot and it's mechanical, that will just move on one axis. But if not, like organically, or if nature doesn't really move like that, so I would always add like a little bit of movement on all the axes. So you can have mostly back and forth, but I would always say maybe add a little bit of movement to the up and down, just to make it feel more natural. It kind of goes back and forth right now. Let's have a look further along. One thing I would say is, I think when you look for something, I look out for pixel, or something that stands out often in pixel art animations, is when there's like a little flickering pixel, I think I noticed it here in that little pixel there. If you watch it, it keeps flicking out back and forth. I would say, just in terms of animation, like having the silhouette more, either more separate, so you don't get that flickering pixel there. See how it's kind of like noisy? Yeah, just adds a bit of noise to the scene, because it keeps flickering in and out. I would say either bring the paper maybe 1 pixel closer to her, or separate it a bit more, so you don't have that like black white kind of thing going on, that contrast constantly shifting. Maybe just in the silhouette, either have the paper slightly closer to her, or you could have her holding it and then her head is here and the paper is like here, so it never actually intersects, so you don't get that flickering pixel. It's just something that adds a bit of noise to scenes sometimes. It's the same in 3D with negative space and whatnot. You don't want these like small pieces of negative space constantly like switching in and out. It just gets noisy. I would say in terms of the posing on this, it feels a little off balance. Like when this kind of rotates this way, it almost kind of feels like it would fall over, because she kind of comes backwards and that rotates away from her. I think you kind of want, you could have had like a more of a pose like this, so she's resting on her chest, when you want to show like weight and someone carrying something. If you're carrying something heavy, you're going to be like, chest going to be kind of back. You're going to have that kind of C shape to your body, You have a little bit of it, but yeah, just to show the weight of something, of holding something, you kind of want to make it feel like they're using their hips and their whole body to carry this thing. Whereas right now it kind of feels very light, even though it doesn't look like it should be. But yeah, just a small thing for maybe a future animation. Just make sure the pose feels like how it should, like the weight and everything is balanced based on the pose. But yeah, everything else is awesome. I love it. It's definitely does what it needs to. It's for what it is. I'm assuming it's a Twitch stream looping video. It's really awesome. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I hope it was useful in some way and you got something out of it. If you want to keep in touch, you can find me on places like Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube. Just feel free to send me a message. Or yeah, if you want to get any fresh eyes on some work or anything, just feel free to send it. And yeah, I can definitely take a look when I get some time. Yeah, thank you